outside. Oh, what a win. Winks got up and beat Ormond and Worthy cause. And welcome to Racing, Pacing, Chasing, episode 10. I'm back with my number one co-host, Claire Lindott. Welcome, Claire.
I join you again. Here we are at the highway tonight, so it's closer to Morphettville tonight.
The highway, we've got to use the microphone. There's a fair bit of background music and noise going on, but I've struggled the last couple of weeks, to be fair. I've really struggled with Rocky back in the seat, and I fear our punters have lost faith in the RPC tipsters at the moment.
Aaron, I think you've done really well. I think you picked the Gawler Cup winner. We went Boris and Ossory, so well done to you for that one.
Did you hear how I picked that just quietly?
No, it wasn't a fluke at all. It was certainly a planned tip for the Racing, Pacing and Chasing team.
Yes, well, anyway, we must thank our sponsors, the Prince Albert Hotel Gawler, that put on this show week in, week out. It is the racing show that does cover all three codes. Groundbreaking, you could say, by our number one man that we do like to give a fair bit of CRAP on, but that's all right. But we can't do this show week in without our sponsors.
No, but let's get straight into it this week, Aaron. We've got a big week, Melbourne Cup week. Fantastic race yesterday. What a thrilling finish. And I believe your pick, Prince Iran, did the best of our picks and ran third. Well done. Oh, sorry, elevated to second.
Elevated to second. I reckon there would have been a bit of chaos in office sweeps. Yes, I certainly know at our office there was an office sweep and they'd paid out on the 1, 2 and 3 and then they were collecting money back off people and some people had already spent their $3.50 and others had spent their there was absolute chaos. I think there was some office that didn't even pay out on the new numbers. So
it was a very unusual protest. So the horse that ran fourth protest against the horse that ran second, and it was upheld, which means the horse that ran fourth is elevated to third, but the horse that is being deemed to cause interference gets put back behind the horse interfered with. So the horse that ran second got relegated to fourth. But Prince of Iran on the outside, as he was not involved with interference, he gets elevated to second. And it was an interesting protest, being the same stable. The stewards protested, actually, and the jockeys didn't give evidence, which I find really unusual, being international jockeys, Frankie Dettori and Wayne Lorden. Here in Australia, as a jockey, if you don't give evidence, you actually could be suspended for not presenting evidence in the room. So it was a different inquiry, and I guess it's because the stewards ran it. That's the way they went about it yesterday.
Yeah, very interesting. And while we're on that, and before we must thank our sponsor of the racing segment, the Gawler and Barossa Jockey Club as well. But I must say, let's just talk a little bit about protests. And have you ever been in that position? We say like Vow and Declare was, at some stage punters are worried. Was it Vow and Declare they were protesting against? And the hype, there's always been those instances where they're protesting against the winner. And the presentation can't go on. But this was fourth against second. But all full credit to Vow and Declare. And we'll get to him shortly. Great ride by Craig Williams. But have you ever been in that position with the protest, fourth versus second or third versus first, or in that case, and lost it or won them?
Yeah, I've been in lots of protests over my...
in a fair bit of trouble, that means.
No, I'm always whinging, typical woman. Oh, no, I didn't say that. Probably... I've never been in a situation where I've been relegated by another protest happening. Probably my best protest that I ever won was a horse called... Good Vet Dinkum Diamond, which I love the name, and she was flying home and the horse in front of me rolled out and I came in and I said to the owner, so don't worry about running second, we'll get this on protest, and went straight through and got upheld. But I've definitely been also in protests which I've lost, and it's really a hard decision, I think, to try and estimate the ground that you horse might have bumped you or taken your running line to really prove how much grounds that cost you. Yeah. But I think yesterday, to me, the decision was upheld in the correct manner. Yeah.
And pretty hefty suspension to Frankie Dettori on the other hand with, was it 9 or 10 meetings as well? Now, that's only 10 days back home for him, but pretty hefty suspension and fine.
Yeah, look, I feel a bit sorry for Frankie Dettori. Obviously, he's now had 18 rides in the Melbourne Cup and has never won it, and he's probably arguably the world's best jockey, but in Australia he doesn't seem to ride his best races. And so, yeah, he's proven again yesterday, and he's probably done... 2015, he probably did Prince of Penzance a favour when he rode Max Dynamite. Caused interference in that race, and he also probably did Australia a favour yesterday because when he caused interference yesterday, he sort of shunted Vow and Declare over the line in front.
They did say that, and just talking about Vow and Declare, obviously like Danny O'Brien been through what he's been through with the Cobalt saga and come out the other side, and congratulations to him. And you saw the emotion involved, but pretty smart ride I thought by Craig Williams. Was probably looked beaten on the turn, but was still sitting pretty patiently and rode a very tactical race. And I know the old saying, and you hear it year in, year out, don't go before the clock tower. and I reckon he outrode Frankie Dettori there. He didn't go before the clock tower. Frankie was off and gone, but Craig sat and counted to 10 and the race-winning ride.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Craig Williams is the ultimate professional, and I do believe the way he rode the horse in the early stages probably set that up for him. It was spoken up, and this is actually, I'm interested now, I'm on the other side of the fence. Sitting around doing form analysis, we speak about how we think the race at the Melbourne Cup's going to be fastly ran. We're talking about internationals that have lots of speed. And it's just interesting, the jockeys that ride those horses, they're all on a plane from America coming from Breeders' Cup. So the jockeys didn't hear that, they're supposed to be going forward and putting on speed. And I just wonder how much, as analysts who sit around predicting how the race is going to be ran, when really as a jockey, you really probably can't read into that. You should ride the race as it plays out, and I think Craig did that. He went forward on Vow and Declare. There's probably some jockeys now lamenting, like Damien Lane and like Jordan Childs, lamenting that they got too far back in a slowly ran race. So it's very easy to say after the event, but perhaps sometimes we do too much form in these big races and don't just ride that horse as it feels, and that's what Craig said in the media. He was really glad that Danny O'Brien said to him, look, we trust you and trust the horse and ride him as he feels.
Yeah, and normally that horse was ridden off the speed and he rolled the dice to be, he went past the post the first time in front, which is very unusual for that horse, and the trainer and owners probably sat in the crowd very surprised as well, but they had Craig Williams on for a reason. And you talk about that Prince of Arran, I was on him for namesake, but he, the Prince, the King of the North, the Prince of Gawler, so we'll go. They're happy with that back set.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say surprise baby for me is going to be the 2020 winner, so I'll call it early and see how hopefully, fingers crossed, he gets there next year. But he was the big run of the race. And Merdy Glace, the horse that I like, the Japanese horse, he probably was unlucky. But at the end of the day, that's the whole point of the Melbourne Cup. You have to actually make your own luck.
And full credit to Chris Waller. He came out yesterday and it was a win for Australia. Many people had doubted that Australia can't produce those stars anymore, and he's run 6th or 7th with Finch, but he didn't care. He was more. It was an industry win, and for him to come out and say that, I think it meant a lot to everyone. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, let's go with the Australians, and his horse Finch ran really well as well. So it was great to see a good result all around.
Yeah, 100%. But I'm going to challenge you this week on the show. We've got you said you want to preview the week's racing, so I'm going to get Claire Lindop to tip the card at Morphettville this Saturday. So for the viewers out there, we've got 8 races. We'll see how good a form you're doing when you're sitting on the other side of the fence. So race 1, we've got the Adelaide Galvanising Handicap. You found a winner there?
I think Jaguar is going to be hard to beat in that race. Race 1, number 1, and Jerry Chow claiming on the top weight.
Mad Jerry Chow fan now. He's got his first City Class winner. Race 2, the Channel 7 3-year-old maiden plate. I'm a big fan of Channel 7. I much prefer their coverage than Channel 10, but that might be a bit controversial. You haven't marked one here on paper, so you've got to totally wing it. What have you found?
Look, I think the Tony McAvoy stable has the Pugliest and Shelfar. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. And ridden by Bren Vorster, who's, I think, since he's been allowed to ride for other trainers besides Tony McAvoy, he's actually hit the front of the Jockeys Premiership. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes throughout the season. There is talk that he's going to be moving to Ballarat, but if he gets enough wins on the board here, he might still win the Premiership in South Australia as well.
Number 2, Flying Aaron for me. Oh, Arion, sorry. I thought it was another namesake. Race 3, the Nova 919 maiden plate. 8-horse field here. Which way are you going?
Look, I'm going to go with the Richard and Chantel Jolly stable. They're flying. Congratulations to them. Last week they had the winner of the Group 3 race on the first race in the card last week, which is also another racing, chasing, pacing. I always say that wrong, don't I? Racing, pacing, chasing teams 1 to follow, Kemple Parza. So fantastic for them.
That's a written warning. All right.
But yeah, going with Hypercane, race 3, number 6.
Now, race 4, very exciting. The Holdfast Insurance 2-year-old plate. First 2-year-old race of the season, a very good field of 9. Some good trainers featured here, some interstate horses as well, but you found one you like.
Well, there's 2 runners from the Hayes stable, and they were dominated last year with the 2-year-olds everywhere in Australia, so interesting to see how they run over here. But there's one for the racing, pacing and chasing team to really follow here called Ichiban Sun, and it is a half to Delasan. So race 4, number 2, keep an eye on that one.
Hot mail there, race 4, number 2. Race 5, the Pike and Joyce Handicap. None marked out on the paper. What do we got? Here we go. I think you missed this race in your pre-race form.
Well, I'm going to go number 1, Cannot Be Serious, which is, I just love the name, and I think it's racing really well. Michael Hinton, Anna Woosher.
Thought you might have gone Raging Queen. But anyway, race 6. A bit after yourself. But
the Queen of the South?
Yeah, the RPC Queen. I'm the Prince of Gawler. We've got the King of the North. What's Rocky then? What's the feel to see to Rocky? If we've got the King of the North, I'm the Prince of Gawler. You're the...
Did we say the Jester or the Joker?
The Joker, right? We'll call him the RPC Joker. I went and watched the Joker the other day. Anyway, race 6, the David Faculty Freedom Finale Cup. Gone number 3, King Red.
Race 6, number 3, King Red. Look, he ran a really good race his last start here at Morpheville, and he was taken on outside by a horse outside him on the way, being a pest. And Todd Panel, the informed rider, and he had a super run last Saturday. Todd Panel on Behemoth for David Jolly and the Golden Eagle. He ran a super 4th, so really proud to see Todd riding into state, and he's back here at Morpheville and going really well.
Race 7, the Medallion Homes Handicap, over the 1,000 metres. Field of 9 here, one scratching already. What do we got?
Look, I've gone the top weight again, Zalmona. This is not being claimed off, ridden by Paul Gadd, but I wonder if over 1,000 metres, if a claim is really as important over the shorter distance. It's got to carry the 59 kilos. But Zalmona, trained by Peter Blanche, has been a very, very good horse. It's ran some, been beaten only small margins in some group races, and he's running really well. Although we do have the John O'Connor on today as a guest, and he's got Miss LaBelle in the race as one to watch as well, number 7. So it'll be a hot race, but I'm going with Zalmona.
We do look forward to speaking John a little bit later on. But race 8, the Dominant Happy Trail Series Final. You 13 horse field here. You've gone number 2.
Yeah, this is Tongside Boss. It's been a racing, chasing and pacing one to follow, and it did win a couple of weeks ago, so let's get on him again. And I see Boris Ossery is also running in the race, but I'm not sure whether it will actually suit him in the 1,400 metres at this race coming back in distance, so looking for Tongside Boss to win again.
We thought we'd do something different. We're being down at the highway and close to the track that we'd try and tip the card, so we're just going to review them at Morpheville Saturday. Race 1, number 1, race 2, number 7, race 3, number 6, race 4, number 2, race 5, number 1 and 6, race 6, number 3, race 7, number 1, and race 8, number 2. So for our punters out there, they're the winners. Mark the card, have a multi, and they'll join us live on the show next week. But anyway, let's get into our first segment, though. We must get into it. The 3 wide, no cover. Righto, 3 wide, no cover. Thanks to our team at Punt Club, amazing sponsors of this segment each week, and the $10,000 Punt Club prize over Spring Carnival's wrapped up now, so we look forward to hearing about that winner. Probably Rocky Butterworth will have a ticket or 2 in it, but if he goes off set for a few weeks, he'll be no doubt going off cruising, then back to the races. It was a fantastic prize.
Yeah, that's right. But we got from last Saturday, we've got in race 4 at Morpheville. I thought the Blue Bear was a little bit stiff. Was that Rachel Clark on the board? Sorry, Raquel. Hugh Bowman got that wrong when he rode Dallas in. There must have been a bit of a few knives thrown that day. Yeah, I don't find Raquel an unusual name, but poor Raquel gets Rachel all the time. So Blue Bear, I thought she went quite early on him and sustained a long run. Only just got beaten in the finish, and it was a close finish taken out by Corridorian, which is one of the ones that we followed from Richard Jolly's stable. And I thought the second horse in that race, Mio Miller, was also one to watch, but Blue Bear, I think, was... probably not one of Raquel's better rides. Not one of her better ones, but we'll make it up. We'll go straight into In the Money. In the Money, thanks to the Ladies in Racing magazine, and your best make friends with Raquel now and find one that she did ride well. In the last, at Morpheville last Saturday, Deck Collector for Stuart Pavan was second up, and she was held up, Raquel, on it at the top of the straight, but when she got out, she really wanted that win, and she was really outrode Anthony Darriman in the finish, I think, there, and got it up as a favourite for the punters. So, yeah, she's back in the good books with a good ride there. Well, you've potted and then you've praised her, so let's take a look at the replay here over the last 300 metres.
Right to the outside. They're about to turn the bend. It's Carla Vasi narrowly from on the outside, Easy Beast. Morvada third, Go the Journey. Now, Deck Collector's into the clear if it's good enough. Lope DiCaprio and Aguilette right down the outside. Easy Beast hit the lead, but here's Deck Collector. Morvada's coming with it, and wider out Aguilette. Inside the 150, Easy Beast in front. Deck Collector's coming. Easy Beast a half. Deck Collector driving. Easy Beast, Deck Collector. Oh. All right, your second one. Now, this is a bit of a favourite of yours. Octane out of the Philip Stokes barn. Kayla Crowther took the ride here. Yeah, look, Kayla herself said it wasn't a pretty ride because she had to get so far out of the ground, but that's the way the horse likes to race. He's now won 3 races here in Morpheville, and it does sound, hearing Tommy Stokes speak after the race, that it might be heading over to Melbourne, but let's follow it there and see how it goes. But yeah, it's a beautiful horse away finishes, and I don't think we've actually seen it bottom out yet. It always seems to recover very well, and it's not even blowing after the race, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes in Melbourne now.
Let's take it all to the replay. It never looks like getting beat the last 300 metres.
Love Magic and Octane, the favourite, is last and out deep and coming forward. Up towards the bend. We wouldn't have predicted that. They turns. The race is clear. Akakan comes off its back. Then Call Me Curtis. Down the middle, Heaven Steel. Running on Thompson's Reward. Where's his favourite Octane? It's right down the middle. Burning the Clock's only battling now. Starting to pick up inside the 150. Out wide, Octane's come from last to chase Thompson's Reward. Burning the Clock through, but Octane, oh, you won't see a bigger win today.
Righto, well, you found some, we've caused some controversy there. We like potting rides, we like praising them, so we've done both on that segment as well. But we must thank our sponsors week in, week out. And there is a fair list and a growing list of sponsors on our racing show, but I'll hand over to you to run through them.
Prince Albert Hotel at Gawler, Punt Club, Ladies in Racing Magazine, Gawler Jockey Club, Fleuro Milk Company. We're still waiting for our iced coffees, Aaron.
Yeah, still haven't got them.
Slow Tours, Sports Centre, Southern Trophies, Peter Page Holden, MGA Insurance Brokers, Almilton Station.
And we do have a special shout out to Adam from Sports Centre, who has recently become a premium sponsor as well. So we thank our sponsors week in, week out. But bit of a different show this week, front bar of the highway, and you've tried to tip the card at Morpheville. We haven't tried, you have, and we look forward to joining our special guest joining us very shortly. So hang around. We've got John O'Connor on the show straight after.
Disclaimer: gamble responsibly.
Gamble responsibly, but load up. Claire's done her form and she's got the inside word. So combine both and you'll be right. But stay around, viewers. We've got John O'Connor up next. And welcome back to Racing, Pacing, Chasing. This is our very special guest segment, and we're joined tonight by none other than John O'Connor, a very famous name in the training and riding ranks around Morpheville. And we tried to get the show started a little bit early, but John, everyone come in. They wanted to stop and have a chat, mate. You're a very famous name in town.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on board and tonight, and we look forward to throwing many curveball questions at you, but none better than when Claire will go 60 seconds with you, 10 questions, and there's some hot questions and quick answers needed. So I'll pass over to Claire. She's got a few interesting fun facts to kick us off.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm not sure about fun facts, but I just wanted to, when I first came to South Australia in year 2000, I think, John O'Connor, you were still riding at the time, and you were a great mentor to me when I moved over here. And when did you transition to becoming a trainer?
That would have been about 2003. It's when I turned 40 and stopped riding and started training full time.
Yeah. At the moment, you've got a stable here at Morpheville.
That's right, Claire, yeah.
How many horses in work?
We've got around 12 to 14 at a time these days, Claire.
Yeah, you seem to concentrate on having that smaller stable, and your motto seems to be hands-on and individual training for each horse. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, we did get up to, at one stage, in the mid-30s in work, going back some years ago now. I don't think it was doing my health much good, to be honest with you, so we sort of made a decision some time ago to try and keep our numbers down to what a level that we're comfortable with, and a bit more one-on-one attention with the horses, and I think our results are better that way too.
Yeah, so over the years you've trained about 300 winners we're looking at, and a strike rate around 11%, which I think is really fantastic, very admirable. And many of your yearlings are bought on small budgets, and you seem to get quite a few owners involved, and you're very good at communicating with all the owners and the syndicates. How many owners do you reckon you'd have roughly in most of your horses? Do you have large syndicates or generally small?
I couldn't answer that with any accuracy as far as how many, because there's so many syndicates involved these days, and I mean, it might be a syndicate that owned 10% of a horse that had got 20 people in the syndicate, so, I couldn't even answer that. There'd be several hundred, I suppose.
Well, we say, when you share it in the syndicate, you got 10% of the cost, but 100% of the thrill. So I think it's a great way to get involved with racing, and you certainly have shown that you've had horses over the years bought for a small amount of money and have had a good return on your investment. What's some of your better winners? Can you remember some of the best ones I've had?
Since I've been training, probably the best performer was a horse called Blunig that he won the Adelaide Guineas at about his 6th or 7th, 8th start. Performed well in Melbourne. He won the Pink Ribbon Cup in Melbourne, and he won probably 5 or 6 group or listed races. We bought him at Adelaide Sale for not a lot of money, and the owners knocked back a big offer from Hong Kong after he won the Guineas.
And you have sold one not to Hong Kong that long ago. I think you had a good horse you were telling me a little while ago called Burst Away. What happened to him?
He. I think ability-wise, he's as good a horse as I've had. He on the training track, he could you'd think he was canned when he was running bloody course records. He was a very talented horse, but he had a bit of a temperament issue that it was probably going to be his biggest downfall, and he was eventually sold to Hong. Well, he was not eventually. He was sold to Hong Kong after only about his 6th or 7th start, and never got to see the best of him here, unfortunately.
Yeah, that sometimes happens with those horses, but I think that's not a bad way to go sometimes as well when you're looking to on-sell horses. And you've done that recently too. Talking about mentoring, you mentored me as a younger rider, and I've seen it happen recently with Scott Westover, who was apprentice with you for a little while. He's just started training in Alice Springs, and you've supported him by sending him up one of your horses.
Yeah, I've had a number of apprentices through our stable, and Scotty was certainly one of the better ones. We got along really well. Scotty, I knew his dad actually quite well. We rode together back in the day, and Scotty finished his time with me, and we just got along really well. He's a very good work rider, Scotty, and a good jockey too. But obviously the weight got him. But he's the sort of kid that could make a trainer because he was such a good horseman and work rider, he was looking for horses to build his stable a bit, and I thought Love Club would be the right horse for up there because he was a very speedy horse and he could race on the speed. And if he handled it dirty, he was always going to be okay up there, and he's done a great job with him. Yeah.
How many's he won up there now?
He won. He got beaten the other day. He won about 4 out of 5 at one stage. Yeah. So he's got him going really well.
Oh, well done. You should be really proud of that achievement. I think Aaron was going to ask you about.
Yeah. Now, so this week you got Miss LaBelle engaged at Morphettville. Likes to get on the speed, but you reckon there's a bit of speed in the race?
Yes, well, 1,000 metres in a track, you're always going to get, it's a speed contest basically. But she's led in a lot of her races, but she certainly doesn't have to. We've taught her to settle when she needs to. But you're right, you're right. Each race as it presents. Barriers are a big thing in determining your race tactics. If you draw in, you use that gate. If you draw out, you might ride differently. But she's drawn about 4 or something on Saturday, so we'll have a look at the speed in the race and work out whether we plan to lead or plan to take a sit. She can do either, so we'll have a think about that.
It'd be hard for some of these jockeys to pull the wool over your eyes, having been out there and ridden all of 600 plus or 800 plus winners yourself. Much conflict between the you've been there and done it, the jockey and trainer now.
I think I'm pretty good to ride for, to tell you the truth, because I think the advantage is that having been out there myself for so many years, you know that all the game plan and instructions and that they can be brought undone in the first 20 metres of the race. So I understand that, and which perhaps someone who hasn't ridden races mightn't understand it so well. So I think I'm pretty forgiving most of the time. Yeah.
Now, one of your more recent winners, Anguston. We say the horse, it's called Anguston, but at Murray Bridge. So where's he at the moment, and where to next for him?
He just went to the paddock actually today, Aaron. He had another run here the other day, and he was a little bit disappointing, but he did get interfered with quite badly late in the race. So he's a nice little horse on the way up. He's not going to be a group winner, I don't think, but he'd be a nice little Saturday grade horse place, right? And but he's only a little fella. He just needs to grow and furnish a bit, so he'll have a good break and come back. Yeah.
And while we're on your horses, is there one to follow for the our punters out there that hasn't probably stepped out yet, but not far away?
I hope so. We've got some, like Left Hand Man's only a couple of weeks off trialling, and Magic Phantom, who won a couple of 2-year-old races there. They're both on their way back. Left Hand Man, yeah. No, we've got about eight 2-year-olds that are all unraced. I think they're probably the nicest lot of 2-year-olds I've had for some time. So it's a couple that are showing a bit. They're not at the races yet, but there's one or two in particular that we're pretty hopeful for going forward. So haven't even got names yet, but. Yeah.
That's a very big statement when one of your highlights in your career, probably in 2013-14, you were the most successful 2-year-old trainer in the state. So it's a pretty big fact, or pretty big statement to come out and say probably the best group of 2-year-olds I've had.
Oh, yeah, I mean, potentially, which is, as you know, a very dangerous word. But when I say 2-year-olds, they mightn't even necessarily race it too. They're just very early stages. But I think.
Bit of education.
Yeah, and I'm not big on smashing 2-year-olds. I think one thing I've brought up a few times, if you look at, since I've been in racing, the great champions, and I don't use that word lightly, but the great champions that I've seen, with the exception of Manicato, I'd say every single one of them almost didn't race at 2 or barely won at 2. So I think there's a lot to be said for giving horses time.
Yeah, I like that.
No, for sure. Now, just one question I did want to touch on, and you do a lot with your website and bits and pieces, but your syndication, how do people get involved with John O'Connor Racing, and do you have someone do that for you, like a lot of these bigger stables do, or is it driven by yourself, or how do you go about that?
And I'm very lucky. I've got a guy called Corey Cale, who's a brother-in-law of mine, who's come on board in the last year or so, doing a lot of owners liaising and getting people involved. And I'm not much of a salesman, so he's been fantastic in getting people involved. So yeah, if you can, anyone wants to visit the website, we'll have Corey's contact details on there, and he'll point you in the right direction.
And probably not, but is it a full-time role for Corey, or like for your stable? I know there's some of these bigger stables probably got 2, 3, 4, many people in that sales role, but is it a full-time role for Corey?
Not exactly, but he puts a lot of hours in though, and he's very diligent, and very lucky to have him. Yeah.
It's like Rocky Butterworth to me, Claire. He puts in a lot of hours for me on the side. But anyway, we'll let Claire go to the. We've probably got a question there for you, but I'm looking forward to the 10 questions in 60 seconds.
Thanks, Aaron. On the website too, there's a fantastic logo. One of the best logos I've seen for a racehorse trainer. A little bit of the salute to your favourite footy team, Carlton. It's quite a clever little logo. So check out John O'Connor Racing on his website. It's a good little logo, that. And I've just got some questions here. It's supposed to be 60 seconds, but generally speaking, I've set the benchmark. We've got about 3 minutes. So, yeah. See how we go here. John, the best horse you've ever seen?
I couldn't go past Kingston Town, but I know there's been some beauties in recent years, but I'm a bit old-fashioned. I love the King.
Yeah. Best horse you've ridden?
My boss, when I was a kid, had a great horse called Double Century that was a near champion. He actually ran second to Kingston Town a couple of times. So a guy called Ron McDonald, he's a Warrnambool man, Ron McDonald. Yep. He passed away a few years ago, but a great horseman.
So where were you apprenticed?
At Flemington.
Okay, wow. So when did you come to South Australia?
When I was about 20, I come to ride for Joe Hall when Joe was pretty big, and finished my time with Joe. And
we're glad to have you. The best trainer you've ever seen, apart from yourself?
No, look, how do you separate Bart and CS and Tommy Smith and there's been some good. One guy.
You've got to choose one.
One local guy that I rode for back in the day. He's no longer with us, but I thought he was just an absolute genius. Was a guy called Mick Armfield. Okay. And he had a small team, but he always had a group horse, and they weren't well-bred horses. They were just locally bred horses. But geez, you could turn them into group horses. He was a.
Yeah, I've heard some good stories about him actually. The race you've most wanted to win but didn't.
I don't know. I suppose the easy one's a Cox Plate, really. I suppose
Did you ride the Cox Plate?
No, I never got to ride in one. No. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, I think in this day and age too, the cups have become very much, the overseas horses' domain. So I think the Cox Plate's still got a bit of an Australian flavour about it still. Just.
What's the best race you've probably ridden in?
Riding a couple of Newmarkets and Oakley Plates and a lot of Adelaide Cups and Goodwoods and that. But Newmarket's probably the biggest race that I'd come close to winning anyway. Yep. But yeah.
And what's the biggest winner you've ridden?
That'd have to be the Sangster here on a mare called Even True for my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Yep. It wasn't Group 1 then, but I wish it was.
And your favourite track to ride on?
I'd probably say Morphettville. Beautiful track. No one ever, no one complains about Morphettville. And even the jockeys come into state always sort of, rave about what a good track it is. We're very lucky to have it here. Yeah.
And what about to train on your favourite track as a trainer now?
I'd have to say Morphettville because that's obviously where we race most of the time. But I've had a lot of luck at Balaclava. It's probably our best strike race. Probably been at Ballack, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay. And are you a Winx or a Black Caviar man?
You couldn't separate them really. I mean, one was unbeaten and one was unbeaten for the last 4 years of her career. But I think Sunline was right up there with them too, and Mackaybe, of course, and. Little filly called Surround back in the 70s.
A horse outside the question.
There's been some. How do you separate any of them? I'd love to have anyone, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we've had some really good mares actually. Blessed to see them all. And now, one of the things that I used to love when I used to ride work at Morphettville was walking past you in the mornings, and you'd often stand out in the middle to watch your horses, and you'd always come up with a funny anecdote or a joke to make me laugh in the morning when you're really tired and. It might be wet and cold and raining. You don't really want to be there, but you always used to make the mornings go a little bit easier for me. Have you got a little joke or anecdote for the racing? I'm putting you on the spot here, racing, pacing, chasing fans.
I can't think of one right now that's probably G-rated enough to.
The family show. All right, we'll come back to you there. Well, then I'll hit you with another hard-hitting question. You are a trainer now, and we're a jockey. What do you think of the dual licence with the jockey and trainer licence that some of the jockeys hold? Do you think it's fair? Would it something you would have liked to have seen back when you became a trainer, or do you think there should be a cap on how many years you can have a dual licence for?
It was actually in existence going back some years ago. David Belford had a dual licence. John Murray had a dual licence. They stopped it for a while, but it's back now. I don't know. It's one of those things. I think jockeys need to be careful not to rush into it because from where I sit, if I'm looking for a jockey for a horse, and there's a jockey with a dual licence, my question is: are they a jockey that trains or are they a trainer that rides? I just don't know where their passion lies once they got. Yeah, once they're both. Yeah, a bit of both. I don't know, but I think younger jockeys they need to I don't think we should be rushing into it. Have a career first as a jockey, and then maybe when you're transitioning, it'd be a good time to take it on. But I think they should be careful to not rush into it.
It's good advice. I have to get Shane Cale on the show one day and ask him. But I think it might have actually improved him as a jockey. He's probably never worked harder in his life. Now he's a trainer as well. And lastly, your favourite drink, John. My favourite drink here is the Fleurieu Peninsula iced coffee.
I'm off the alcohol at the moment, so. I've developed a taste for Dr. Pepper. You ever drink that?
No, I haven't.
It's beautiful. It's an American drink. It's a cherry cola. It's magnificent. No, the local IGA stores it.
The local crowd here at the highway. Sorry about that, John.
Oh, now I have to get it in stock. It's a great drink, actually. When you have when you're not having a drink. Yeah, it's
okay.
great.
I'll have a Dr. Pepper after my iced coffee. All right. Thanks for joining us, John. I do need to thank our sponsors, Aaron.
No, thanks, John. It's been a pleasure. As it's no disrespect to you talking very quietly. You're a very quietly spoken man, but we are at the highway tonight, and there's a lot of background noise as we've just seen, Claire. But it's good to come from the front bar of the highway tonight, John. But thanks for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure, and we've got a couple there for our viewers to follow, and that's what it's all about: finding our viewers at racing, pacing, chasing a winner or two. So thank you, and the best of luck this Saturday.
Thanks, Aaron. Appreciate it. Thank you.